Hey guys, Hacksploit here, back again with another video, and welcome to the complete guide on how to set up your own virtual penetration testing lab where you can practice all your skills and obviously improve as you move along. Now, I just want to pass out a quick announcement that regarding the SS7 exploitation video, I'm currently working with YouTube to get it accepted. Of course, I'm not going to be able to monetize it, but I'm still forcing it or trying to make sure that it gets published on YouTube. If that's not the case, I will have to host it on my website, so then you can check it out over there. Reason being is that YouTube does not allow any demonstration of exploitation of a system that you do not own, and in the video I explain and show you how to exploit a GSM network and that type of thing. That being said, welcome to this video. In this video, I'm going to be showing you how to set up your own virtual penetration testing lab so you can practice your skills. Now, before we get started, I just want to point out that if you're installing Kali Linux or Parrot OS, whatever penetration testing distribution that you decide, if you're installing it on a physical machine, then it'll still be the same for you as long as you have enough computers to run Metasploitable as a server, or if you then tend to go into virtualization, which is my recommended option, especially nowadays because computers are much faster and they're able to handle virtualization much better. All right, so let's get started, and what we're going to be doing is I'm going to be taking you through the different virtualization softwares. We're then going to move on to actually selecting your penetration testing distribution, and then I'll show you how to get your exploitable or your vulnerable operating system or vulnerable server, which in this case is Metasploitable 2. All right, let's get started. So as I said, the first thing that you want to make sure you have ready, or you want to make sure that you have hardware wise, is you have enough system resources. Now I'm just going to go ahead and say it. The most important thing you need is virtualization. If your processor does not support virtualization, then that means that you cannot, or you are unable to use a virtualizing or a virtualization software. Okay. Now this is not very common because even the older, processors like the Pentium and the Core 2 Duos, they all support it, and some of the older AMD processors, it's a very common feature to have any processor have virtualization. Okay, now this will work on any operating system. You could be running Mac OS, you could be running Linux, and if you're running Windows, it'll be the same thing right here. Okay, so as you can see, I've got these files on my desktop, and I'll be explaining them as we move along. Now, let's get started with virtualization software. Now, I'm going to start off with my favorite and what I recommend to you right now. All right. And that is VMware. Now, you don't have to buy VMware. By the way, quick announcement. I'm going to be doing a giveaway, probably when we hit 70 or 80,000 subscribers. I'm going to be giving away 5 legitimate serial keys for VMware Pro. So that you guys can also get started with it, because I've invested in it and it's absolutely fantastic. All right. But if you want to use the free one, I apologize for my phone notifications here. Let me actually just turn that on silent. That being said, there is the free version, and the website will be linked in the description, so you can check it out for yourself. Okay, so let's get started with the download. So you can go to the left hand side here and click on downloads. All right, now if you look at product downloads, it'll show you all the products they have. You can then go to the free product trials and demos. Okay, you don't want to look for that. That's all to do with demos. If you want to try VMware Workstation Pro, go ahead and try it. You can have a trial. You then want to go to your free product downloads where you have Workstation Player. That is the free version, and you can use it as much as you want. The difference between the free and pro version is that the pro version has more features in regards to just making things easier when it comes down to virtualization. So you can recover all that good stuff, and probably make a video on the differences there. But if you're a beginner, you don't have to spend money on the professional version. Trust me, I use the free version and I've used it in many enterprise situations, and it worked perfectly. Okay, so you just want to click on one of the options here. So for example, Workstation Player, and just let it load. I apologize for my slow internet. If for some reason it always is slow. So there you are. You can download it for Windows 64-bit operating systems, and you can select your option here for Linux. Now, if you're not interested or you don't like VMware, you can go for VirtualBox. VirtualBox was my favorite, but after a while, it just has too many compatibility issues, especially with Kali Linux. And I'm going to be getting to that in a second. All right, so VirtualBox is essentially free, and you can use it on Linux. You can use it on Windows, all that good stuff. Now, if you're running Mac OS, what I would recommend is that you use a software or a program called Parallels. I'm sure you've heard of it if you've been using a Mac, because that's essentially the only alternative to a virtualization software on the Mac OS platform. Okay, so don't worry if you're running a Mac, it's essentially the same process. Just open up Parallels and you should be good. Okay, so with VirtualBox, it's completely free, and you can just go into downloads. Don't worry, the link will be in the description. And you want to look for the VirtualBox, the latest platform packages. And for some reason, the Windows hosts is not available right now. So you can, by the way, they also added the OS X. I believe that was added probably around the version 5. Sorry about that. So you can also use VirtualBox on macOS. You can also use it on Linux and Solaris. So again, it's very simple. Just download it and get it installed. Okay, so once you've chosen your virtualization software, now it is one of the most daunting, it's one of the most complicated. Well, in my mind, it's not really complicated, but for many beginners, it's probably the most fidgety topic, and that is selecting your penetration testing distribution. Now, I'm going to recommend one of two, and that is Kali Linux. So you can use Parrot OS, or you can use Kali Linux. Now, a lot of people ask me or send me messages and, post their comments in the description, in the comment section, saying which one is better, why it's better. And then there's always arguments, heated arguments, all of that. And here's what I say. Okay. I was in the same dilemma. Trust me. Well, mostly the time I got started, there was only one. There was Backtrack. That's it. So you had to learn it, or, that's that. So again, I would say just choose one and stick with it. Now, most people will say start with Kali, master Kali, then you can use Parrot OS, because it's essentially the same functionalities transferred over. It's just that the difference is the operating system and the kernel and all of that. So it's very little to do with the tools, because the tools are, on all the platforms. So again, it's all about what you like. So here's what I'm going to say. Download each of them and then try which one you like. Okay, so maybe you can try Kali. If you don't like it, try Parrot. Parrot is something that you may like. And do not be confused, and do not be scared of making the decision. Once you've made the decision, stick with it. And if you have any problems, then try and troubleshoot it. If you can't, switch to the other one. All right. And in my opinion, I'll say this, that Kali Linux is an enterprise type of operating system, especially now. So it is what I would call a industry standard. All right. Now, Parrot OS is fantastic. There's no doubt about that. I've used it for many projects, real life projects, and I can tell you that it does work. But when you move on to a professional level, I would recommend Kali Linux, because it is the benchmark, and it is sort of required, because they're not going to allow you to just test systems, or employers are not going to allow you to test systems with tools that are not familiar. That's what I was also talking about. Installing all these weird scripts isn't really going to help, because you have to know how to use the industry standard tools. Okay, so you can choose between Kali Linux and Parrot OS. Now, when it comes to Black Arc and Backbox, all of that, all of those other distributions, I'm not really going to include them, because that's again a matter of personal taste. Okay, so getting back to Kali Linux, I just want to talk about something. For Parrot OS, the download is very simple. Just go to download, and you have 3 versions. Okay, you have your security, which is the one you want to get. You then have workstation, which again is focused, is a lightweight system for daily use and privacy protection. So it offers a solution for casual users, as you can see, who love the look and feel of Parrot. You then have Parrot security, which is a complete all-in-one environment for pen testing, privacy, digital forensics, reverse engineering, and software development. So again, it's focused on all of those facets, and that's why I kind of like it, and I've tried it out. But for me, I'm not really doing, digital forensics or reverse engineering. Some of you might be doing it, and if that's your field, then by all means go ahead and use Parrot OS. Okay. Now let's get back to Kali Linux, and I just want to talk about the downloads. Now, if you're installing Kali Linux in a virtualized environment, I'm just going to show you a little tip here that will save you a lot of time. Do not download the ISO file. Alright, many people I've seen make this mistake, and I've made an installation video of Kali Linux showing you how to install it using the ISO even on a virtual machine, and you can see it's just really hectic. So why would you want to go through that? What I would recommend is just download the VMware virtual machine or the VirtualBox virtual machine. Alright, as you can see, you have your VMware, your 64-bit and your 32-bit, and the same for VirtualBox. So for those of you who are telling me it doesn't work on 64 or on 32-bit, you can see here that indeed it is real and it is working. So once you download one of these, dependent on the virtualization software you're using. So for example, I've downloaded or I had the VMware version. I'll show you in a few seconds how easy it is to get it set up. So this virtual machine is already installed. You don't need to go through the installation of Kali. It's already installed. You just need to import it into your virtual machine, and that's it. And that's that. You get started immediately. Same for VirtualBox. Now, for the rest of the video, I'll be continuing with VMware, and that's because, as I said, I've kind of lost the liking for VirtualBox, and that's no offense to VirtualBox. I just like VMware because it's never let me down, and there aren't any compatibility issues with installing the the libraries or all of that, So going back to Parrot OS, you can see that the latest version as of recording this video is Parrot OS 3.11. Okay. And you have your 64-bit and your 32-bit, and this is essentially the ISO. Alright, so the ISO for Parrot is really very simple to install. Or to create a virtual machine, all you need to do is open up your virtualization software. As I said, I'm going to be continuing with VMware Pro, and you can see I also have the VMware Workstation 14 player. So if I just open up that, or actually have it open, sorry about that. For some reason I opened it another instance there. So let me just show you something. I've already opened it up, and you can see these are the two virtual machines that I always have running. One of them is Kali Linux. Don't worry about the title. I have updated it, so you can edit your virtual machine settings there, and we'll get to that in a second. Alright, so I have Kali Linux and Metasploitable 2. Now don't worry about this. If you want to create a new virtual machine, just go into File, New Virtual Machine, go for Typical. And next, you want to then select your ISO image. As you can see, mine is for some reason selected on Ubuntu ISO. So just hit next. We'll use that as an example. So then it's going to prompt you, if you're running Ubuntu, to enter your full name, your username and password. In most cases, if you're running Parrot OS, it's not going to prompt you to do that. Okay, but as I said, if you're running this on a virtualized piece of software, if you want to run this in terms of virtualization, then do not download the ISO unless you're using Parrot OS. Download the virtual machine file here, because that automatically imports, and I'll show you that in a second. So let's say I've downloaded the VMware file here. I can just click on it right here. As you can see, once I click on it, I already have it, so it's not going to prompt me, but there you go, it's going to prompt me again to re-import it, and that's going to essentially wipe your current hard disk if you already have one installed. If you're new, just hit import and select the destination, and that's that. You don't have to install it. Once it's imported, you're going to be given this beautiful menu here giving you the version. Again, you can edit it and change the name, and it's going to give you this awesome description here saying this is the username is root, the password is Tor, and the keyboard layout is US. Alright, so that's information that you can just check out and gives you the IRC channel, all that good stuff. Okay, so it's going to give you this little menu here. Excellent. So now you can edit your virtual machine settings, which is what we're going to be talking about now. Okay, but before that, let me show you how to download your vulnerable operating system, which in this case is Metasploitable 2. Now, a lot of people have asked me to do the Metasploitable 3 video, and the reason I haven't done it yet is because, man, that thing has bugs. Like, I've tried it, installing it on my computer, and it worked after 5 hours of configuring it. I then tried to do it on another computer, same way, that gave me success on one computer, and it didn't work. So it's come to my attention that you need to configure it individually for every computer, and a video therefore will not be good. So I'll make a post on my website regarding how to select the appropriate settings. Okay, so again, it's very dependent on your hardware, and you need to be really attentive when installing it. It's just a pain in the neck. What I would recommend is just using Metasploitable 2 and installing your own tools on it, or using CTFs. Alright, so you want to open the link in the description that takes you to the Metasploitable 2 page. It's developed by Rapid7. which, as you know, created Metasploit. All right. And I'm sure you know about the Metasploit framework. And you can just go ahead and look at the download page here. You can go for the Rapid7 download page or the SourceForge download page and just click on it. And it's going to prompt you to download it. All right. So once you have it downloaded, it's going to be a zip file on your desktop right here. So I'm just going to extract it. It's Metasploitable 2. Just going to extract it to my desktop. And as you can see, this runs exclusively. So let it just open up because I really want to show you what I mean. All right. So let that just extract. I apologize for the speed, although the file does take a while, even on all computers that I've tried this on. It always is quite a hefty extraction process, probably because it was zipped very, very thoroughly. Okay, so let this complete, and we can just move back into our virtual machines here. All right, so I already have Metasploitable imported. We'll be looking at the settings you need to set, and then we'll be looking at the network configuration. Okay, so Metasploitable 2 has successfully been extracted. And as you can see here, this is a virtual machine disk file. So you can just click on it and it will import it to the system the same way. So if I click on it, you can see, whoops, sorry about that. If I just click, my bad, sorry, you actually have to open the virtual machine file there, and that will prompt it to open directly from there. All right, so I already have one that has all my data saved there, so I'm not going to do that. Okay, so once that's imported, let me just get rid of that because I don't need it right now. Now we can get started with the virtual machine settings. Very important. So make sure you have Kali Linux opened in one tab or ParrotOS, and you have Metasploitable 2 opened in another tab. Now let's start off with Kali Linux, the settings here. All right, so you want to go into Edit Virtual Machine Settings. Now, as I said, you must have, I would say, at least 4 gigabytes of RAM. All right. And the reason being is Kali Linux works great with 2 gigabytes. If you have more if you have more RAM, you can then increase it to whatever you like. Now, if you're running a 1 gig, a 2 gig computer that has 2 gigs of RAM, do not worry. You can reduce it to 1 gig as well, but it'll then be really, really slow and you won't be able to open up programs, or, Metasploit will take a huge amount of time to start up. All right. That being said, if you have a 4 gigabyte computer, just leave it at 2. And if you have 8 or 16, it doesn't matter. Just leave it at 2. It works really great there. Unless you start doing things like reverse engineering, things that are very resource hungry in the RAM department. Okay. So you then want to go into your processors. Now, this is again very dependent on your hardware specifications and your processor more specifically. So if you have a dual core processor, what I would recommend is just using one. Okay. Now, you can select the number of cores per processor, and that essentially is hyper-threading. Okay. So right now, as you can see, I've put 2 processors, and that theoretically is wrong because I only have 1 processor. Now, if you're running a server type of workstation that has 2 sockets on the motherboard, you can then select it from there. All right. So I was just explaining that many people put this because they think they have a quad core that is 4. Not really. Okay. So you want to make sure you select 1 processor. I'm guessing that's what most of you have. And then you want to select the cores. All right. Now my processor has 4 cores. All right. So I'm going to select 2. That gives me an optimal performance. Now, if you want to give it all 4, it will work great, but then your host operating system will not work as efficiently as possible. So I would recommend 2 if you have a quad core. If you have a dual core, you can use one core, and that's perfectly fine. All right. Or you can use 2 and you can just turn off what's running in the background. So that's how I like mine right there. All right. As for your hard disk, you can currently look at the size that it gives you. It's around 60 gigabytes. You can then also expand the disk capacity dependent on the type of files you're using. So again, you can expand it if you so choose to. And you also have your disk file location right there. All right. If you want to use a CD or DVD drive, which I'm guessing you don't need to touch anything there. And now for the network adapter settings. Now, a lot of people get confused here. What we want to do is we want to make sure that that the virtual machines, both Kali Linux and Metasploitable or ParrotOS, depending on what you're using, are connected to the physical network. That means they're using your adapter, your computer's host adapter, whether it's a Wi-Fi adapter or it's an Ethernet adapter. Right now you can see I'm using NAT. So what this means, it's going to share the host's IP address. Now what this means, if I was to leave it on NAT, That would mean that if I launched Kali Linux and I also launched Metasploitable, they would have the same IP address as the host IP address. So it will have the same IP as Windows. Now, most people think that that's okay. No, you do not want that. You want each virtual machine to have its own IP address. And you do that by going for a bridged connection and then replicate physical network connection state. That will make sure that it replicates the fact that it's on Ethernet. If it's on Wi-Fi, it's going to also display it as Wi-Fi, and they'll all have their own IP addresses, their own local IP addresses. Okay, so this is very important. Make sure it's set to bridged. All right, awesome. Once that's done, you can play around with your USB compatibility. If you have USB 3 drives that you want to be using, you can also do that as well. And you have your display settings. Now, again, this is something that many people ask me. Should I use Accelerate 3D graphics? I would recommend that you do if you have a dedicated graphics card. However, if you have an APU or an integrated graphics card, then I would urge you to shy away from this. Now, many people also ask me, how do I use more than one monitor? Because I have a triple monitor or a dual monitor setup, and you can just specify the monitor settings depending on how many monitors you have, and you can select the resolution. So it's really that simple. Now that's all the tough stuff. Let's hit OK. Those are the settings for Kali Linux. You now want to go into Metasploitable 2, which again, I want to just show you a few settings. Go into Edit Virtual Machine Settings, and you want to go into the memory. Now, in my opinion, okay, this is very important. If you're using Metasploitable 2 on your own, that means you're the only one connecting to it, then you can change the RAM up to even 256 megabytes. But if you are setting it up for your class, alright, and let's say you want your students or your friends to all try and use it at the same time, remember, Metasploitable 2 here is acting as a server. Now, servers, depending on the amount of requests and the amount of processes it is processing, will require more RAM. It's like, for example, let me just use a stupid analogy. It's like Minecraft, alright? Minecraft servers usually have about 8 to 16 gigabytes of RAM, and that's because they're processing or they're handling a lot of requests that are being sent by the players. Now, the more players you have or the more users you have, the more RAM you'll need. So again, feel free to change it to even 128 megabytes, because again, you're just going to, if you're the only one using it, you don't need a lot. And don't worry about the recommended settings, because as you can see, it's going to give you recommended suggestions dependent on your memory configuration. So I like leaving it at 512 because I'm usually testing it with a few other friends of mine, and we are trying to do a few other settings with CTF. We're actually trying to create our own CTF website. That's something I shouldn't have actually told you because I was keeping it in secret, but don't worry, that's coming out soon. As for the processor, I like keeping this to one processor and one core, so that it just uses one processor, because again, the process is very, very minimal depending on what you're doing. The hard disk space is 8 gigabytes. If you're installing your own files, you can expand it to what you want. Now, as for the network adapter, make sure that it's bridged, and make sure that both options, if it prompts you for a dual network adapter configuration, make sure that they are both bridged. Alright, and once that's done, you can just hit OK. And you don't need to really use accelerated 3D graphics, because Metasploitable is a command line and it lacks a graphical user interface. Okay, so now that we have set up all our settings, now we can power on Kali Linux, and we can also power on Metasploitable 2. Okay, there we are. So it's prompted me to start up Kali Linux. Excellent. And Metasploitable is also starting, as I said. They do not have, Metasploitable 2 does not have a graphical user interface. So I'll show you how to log in and how to get your local adapter. Alright, so let Kali Linux start up there. It should be starting up anytime right now. There we are. Metasploitable 2 has started up, and it's starting the clock and the event managers. Let that start up. This is checking my disk. Yeah, the storage device is clean, and the blocks are also looking good. Alright, so give it a few seconds to start up, and I think Kali Linux should have started up by now. And there we are. Let's just wait for both of them to start up. Now let me explain a few things with Virtual or VMware Pro. The great thing that I like is you can go into full screen mode immediately, and that's also another great thing is if you use the virtual machine file, the Kali Linux virtual machine file, it already has the VMware guest additions installed, so you don't have to install it. You're good to go, and you can run it in full screen, and it's well optimized. I am going to be making another video on how to configure VMware to work great with Kali Linux, because a lot of you guys have been telling me that it's slow, and I also had this problem, and I sorted it out. Okay, so I think Kali Linux should have started. You'll know that it started because you'll see the black mouse pointer there. Metasploitable has started, so it's going to say here, never expose this virtual machine to an untrusted network. That's very, very true. Do not do that. And you can log in with the MSF admin combo. All right, so the username is MSF admin and the password is MSF admin. Whoops, sorry about that. There we are. And once we're logged in, it should tell you welcome. And there we are. As you can see, it is running on Ubuntu or Debian. And let that just sit as it is. And there we are. We are in Kali Linux right now. And the username, as I said, is root. And the password is Tor. All right. Now you can add your own username if you want to. And essentially you have full control over the system. The default username and password is root and Tor. All right. So give that a few seconds to start up. And I'll go into full screen mode in a second. Let me just clear up Metasploitable here. By the way, if you have clicked in the virtual machine, you can see that my mouse pointer has disappeared. If you want to exit out of the virtual machine and go back to your host operating system, use the Control plus Alt key, and that will take you back there. Okay, so there we are. We have Kali Linux over here, and now you can go into View and hit full screen, and give it a few seconds to scale. Let me just move my folder back there, and voila. Now again, if you're using Wi-Fi, it should show up as wireless. You should see a wireless adapter. It's going to be using the same bridged adapter as your host operating system. So what we're going to do is I'm just going to hit ifconfig here, like so. And as you can see, my local IP is 192.168.1.107. Yours might be different, but you want to make sure that they're running under the same subnet. So the subnet will be 192.168.0 or 1 or 2, depending on how many access points you have. Let's make sure they're on the same network. So I'm going to hit ifconfig here, ifconfig. And as you can see, it's running on the same network or the same subnet, which is 192.168.1.105. And there you are. They can now communicate with each other. So for example, if I said, let me just run a simple, nmap o 192.168.1. Let me just check the IP here, 105. All right, so 105. My bad, 105. And I'm just going to hit enter. Let's see what it is able to bring up. Let me expand that. As you can see, it's going to scan the Metasploitable 2 virtual machine, and it's going to give me all this information. I essentially scanned for the operating system version. It's going to give you a MAC address, all that good stuff. And this is just a simple nmap scan to show you that you can now work on your virtual machine. All right. So that is how to configure Kali Linux with Metasploitable 2. And again, the great features that I really like are that I can, suspend the guest. I can take snapshots and, go back, go forward if I ever muck up, and you get the idea. Now, this video has been going on for a long while now, and I'm going to end it right here by saying thank you guys for all the support on the channel. A lot of you guys have been asking me for this video and how to show you how to configure your own virtual penetration testing lab. We're going to be looking into CTFs in the future, and I'm going to be continuing the web application penetration testing series. So that's going to be it for this video. I hope you enjoyed it or you found value in it. If you did, please leave a like down below. If you have any questions or suggestions, let me know in the comment section or on my social networks or on my website, and I'll be seeing you in the next video.